All right, welcome back to another episode of Support Small and Local. And today I'm very excited to be joined by Cheryl from Muse Meditation. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
So, look, I'm very excited about our chat today because meditation is something that is definitely a topic of interest for me. It's something that I'm very into, so I'm really keen to dive into all things meditation. But before we do, could you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your business?
Yes, absolutely. My name's Cheryl, but most people call me Sheza. And I started Muse, February time.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, gained a fair bit of traction pretty quickly, the local community, which was great. But then obviously COVID hit and face-to-face sessions and group sessions were put on hold pretty quickly. But because it's my passion, I just thought, well, I'm going to persevere with it because, I mean, now more than ever, we need a bit of mental health support and a little bit of self-care. I think what people have found most difficult is spending all this time at home, being all these different roles and not quite landing in the space that they're in either. So I think what I've put out there and what I've offered people throughout the year has certainly helped kind of break up that little routine, which, yeah.
100%.
But yeah, look, Muse has been on the cards for a couple of years for me. I think it's always been part of my personal practice for mental health. I think it's super duper important. And there's a lot to be said for spending some time with yourself, especially in today's day and age. You know, we're super busy and society obviously promotes us to be doers. And I think, you know, I speak to people all the time that they are so detached from themselves. They don't really know who they are. And meditation gives you a beautiful way of getting to know that. So I was really driven by that and creating a space for people to be able to explore that part of themselves as well. So Muse is it's something that I've lived by. So I'm able to promote it from there.
Yeah, 100%. And look, I think, you know, there's definitely people out there who, you know, hear the word meditation and they go, that's not for me, or it's a little bit woo-woo, but I think, you know, with my own experience with it, right, you know, I only really started to take it seriously and actually practice probably about 2 years ago now. Maybe 2.5. And I think in the simplest terms, you know, you've kind of explained it really well there, where, you know, we're all so busy and we never sort of take any time for ourselves. So it's not about, you know, being some woo-woo ritual. It's about literally just stopping, grounding yourself, and taking care of your mental health, as you mentioned, right? You know, we all know these days how important sleep is. You know, to rest, to reset, to get rid of toxins, to be healthy. Meditation is just another form of that. You know, in helping your brain rest and relax.
Absolutely.
How did you get into meditation? When did it become a thing for you?
Oh, look, it's been in and out of my life for a few years now. I'd say even before I moved to Australia in 2012, but I was dabbling in it. But certainly since I've moved to Shepparton and I started attending local groups, I say 2014.
Okay.
And then I remember a specific time where the group that I was attending, the lady who was running it, she said, I'm actually looking to step back and looking for a replacement. And I remember at the time, I don't know if you've ever experienced imposter syndrome, but you kind of question whether you're, you know, good enough to do it or step up. And I actually didn't say anything at the time, but I felt very deeply that it was going to be important and it was going to evolve from there. So I just worked on my practice every day and tried different types of meditation, did a course learning how to facilitate and it's kind of gone from there really. But it's certainly a non-negotiable in my day-to-day now. It's just, even like as you said, it can be very very simple, and I always promote a down-to-earth approach so that anybody can do it. You know, it's a simple, even if it's a simple check-in, spending 10 deep breaths and going, right, how am I actually feeling? And it's amazing what comes up off the back of that. And from that, I think, you know, especially this year as well, if you stop and you listen in and you actually check in with yourself, you can go, right, well, I'm feeling a bit tired. Let's have a good night's sleep tonight. Or I'm feeling a bit thirsty. A glass of water wouldn't go amiss. But when you're not stopping to question those things, you're just flying by the seat of your pants every day and also missing some pretty beautiful moments in your day. So that's what I have grown to love and evolve with it as well. I think it's just such a passion. It's my non-negotiable. I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. What is meditation to you and for you, right? Just in really basic concepts, like how do you practice? What does it look like? What does it mean to you?
Look, on a fundamental level, it's just daily check-in. How you going, Shez? Like how can I better my day? How can I better taking care of myself and therefore other people? It has that knock-on effect as well. It has you know, that you're often told if you don't look after yourself properly, you can't look after other people properly. So that from a practical level is my number one. It's just take care of me first, and then that will have that knock-on effect. My daily practice varies, definitely. It can be stepping onto my mat and my cushion and sitting there for 45 minutes and you know, doing some self-inquiry, or just simply trying to use my breath to quieten the mind as well.
Yep.
I mean, there's endless variations of meditation as well. But just having that basic check-in, that basic 10 breaths, what do you need today? I'm able to then choose which meditation is going to best suit me that day anyway. Because sometimes I can have a really long day, be exhausted, don't really want to sit still for 45 minutes and sit with it. I just want to do a bit of clearing my mind and keeping it nice and simple like that. So it varies, and it will vary for most people, and that's the fun in it as well. I think you can really explore your practice because there's so many different
100%
ways of doing it. So
look, I think one of the most important things for me, like over the past couple of years, just in actively trying to become more self-aware, you know, look internally more than externally. There's so much that we're not taught, or we haven't been taught. Like, you know, in my generation, your generation, like, you know, we didn't go to school and learn about how to regulate ourselves. We didn't go to school and learn about how to, you know, meditate. We didn't go to school or, you know, our parents, even for the most part, you know, it wasn't something that was common practice. And I think that it's really awesome how this is sort of becoming much more of a topic of conversation these days, you know, a much more common practice, you know, to the point that, you know, my wife and I, like, we're teaching our kids how to breathe and regulate and meditate and all that sort of thing, right? And it's so cool. Like, you know, our littlest one, not our littlest one, our oldest one, 4 years old now, like, you know, he asks to do meditation before we go to sleep at night, right? Yeah, like, but it's just, when you think about it, it's just so simple. Like, you know, for him, you know, he's not sitting there on a mat, you know, trying to concentrate for 45 minutes. It's just about him relaxing, calming down, getting ready for sleep, or just that sort of stuff, right? So it's really cool that it is becoming much more of a, you know, a spoken thing and a day-to-day thing just in general society. So, and I think it is super important because, as you mentioned, you know, we're all running around, we're so busy, and even if we sit back and take a look ourselves at our general day-to-day, a general week in our life, it's just go non-stop the entire way. And if you think about it, you're like, when you actually getting any kind of rest apart from when you fall asleep at night, otherwise, your brain is constantly going. There's a million things going on. 2020, COVID's hit. Everything's to another level. So it's just crazy. But we could go on for hours. So the next thing, obviously, is, you know, what are some of the health benefits? Like, why would somebody want to consider or take up meditation? Like, what can it do for us, you know, on a sort of a health level?
Yeah, I think, oh, how long have you got really? I mean, there's obviously the mental health benefits that goes hand in hand really. You can clear your mind, you can get to know yourself on a deeper level, you can have intuitive downloads that you think, holy moly, that's really landed for me and that's really important. And you, on a knock-on effect from that, you seek external validation less and less as well, because you're building that trusting relationship with yourself. And you see all these self-development quotes and self-care quotes all over the internet is, stop seeking external validation, get to know who you are. Well, how do I go about doing that?
Stop.
Meditation's a beautiful way. Yeah, stop.
Stop and think. Yeah.
Yeah, and you said before about the generational thing. I think that's really important to note is, our parents, grandparents, they come from a generation of, stiff upper lip mentality, where, you don't feel things, you get on with things, that's just life, you deal with it, blah, blah, blah. And now we're entering a phase where it's actually encouraged to feel all your feelings, and I think that is a beautiful humane way of looking at being a human being. Like it, even the lower vibrational emotions, the anger, the fear, all these things we have been feeling this year as well, they're essential to being a human being, and to feel them during your meditations, whilst it might be triggering and somewhat uncomfortable, you're actually moving it through your body. So I always say emotions are energy in motion. And if they aren't felt and they're not dealt with, they become stuck within your body. And then you get the physical manifestations of that, which is, the stress, the tension, the medical conditions, longevity wise. So to actually stop and feel those difficult emotions, they're not pleasant, they're not great, actually has a longevity effect there. So I always say that the short-term pain is the long-term gain in that sense, because you're actually sitting with it and dealing with it. And again, going to have a beautiful knock-on effect, because you're dealing with your own emotions in the present moment. You're not going to be projecting onto other people as well. Physical benefits regulates your meridian rhythms, you get a deeper sleep, you are relaxing the tension in your body. I mean, a big part of my longer meditations that I guide is body relaxation, to drop into that space, because it's important, even noticing at the end of the day, the tension behind your eyes. We're looking at phones, we're looking at screens, we're in artificial lighting, like all these things are putting pressure on our eyes. It's amazing how people respond to that. They go, I did not realize how much tension was behind there. And geez, I had a good sleep because I relaxed and I paid attention, because our bodies are also always communicating with us, and it's whether we're listening or not. So, heart rate reduction, all those, the obvious biological effects that can happen.
Yeah.
When you sleep, but you can do that throughout the day as well,
Exactly. 100%. And I mean, again, it's just, when you think about it, it's common sense, right? Like, our body is made up of cells, right? As you mentioned, we get tense, we get stressed, there's lots going on. For anybody who's ever laid in bed, which I'm sure is every human that's been alive, you've laid in bed at night and your mind is just going a million miles an hour and you can't go to sleep. There's a reason why that's happening, right?
Absolutely.
And there are ways that you can, deal with that, right? You may be stressed at work and things may be really tough, or at home or wherever it is. And it's not that stress is a bad thing. It's how do you regulate, how do you control, how do you, ground yourself and work through that. Because so often, we're like, oh, I'm feeling stressed, I shouldn't be feeling stressed, and we just pack it down, or something's not going well, all of those sort of things. So as you mentioned, it really is about dealing with it, so that at a biological level, our body can perform at the highest level, not being, having everything squashed down and packed down and ignored. So
and I think as well, like, often when people have stress at work or stress in their life, they go to external things, whether it's a beer. I mean, we all like a beer, but a beer or, things that aren't actually dealing with the emotions. And what's actually happening is, if you're not dealing with it, you're just going to keep attracting the same thing anyway, unless you actually sit with it and go, this isn't good for me. On a intuitive level, my body's telling me it's not good for me. I'm carrying all this stress. How about I deal with it, and then I'll attract something better. You actually make the space to call in something better, because you've moved that emotion through you. You're kind of operating from a higher vibrational level. You're going, oh, I feel so much lighter. I feel happier. You're going to call in so much more joy into your life.
Yeah. If somebody's watching this, how just at a basic level, how can they get started with meditation?
Oh, deep breaths. Tap into your breath for a start. I mean, if you find the whole concept super duper overwhelming, you breathe throughout the day without you thinking about it.
Or we don't breathe, during the day, and we find ourselves sitting there getting so tense and stressed and upset, and it's because we're doing short, sharp breaths. We don't have good oxygen flow. So again, just stopping, taking time, taking those big. Is there a particular pattern that you kind of fall back to with deep breaths? Like, do we take 10 big ones? How long do we breathe in? How long do we breathe out?
With my practice and my teaching, I'm super intuitive, because what works for one may not work for the other. So listen to your body, and that's what it's about, building that relationship. If I guide a meditation, I'll never count the breathing, like the inhale or the exhale, because my lung capacity is not great, whereas the next person's might be. So
True.
I say, listen to your body. Whatever feels like a good, deep, nourishing breath, go with that. If you feel like you need just 3 to calm yourself down, great. If you need 10, go for 10. It's essentially about listening into what you need as an individual, and but starting with breath. And my beginner's meditation that I teach is called Breathe and Feel. So if someone comes to me for a one-on-one session, the first 15 minutes, I'll get them to sit and I'll get them to breathe down into their belly as well, because throughout the day we're thoracic breathing through your chest. So send that breath down to your belly. And then once you've really got into that relaxation mode with your breath, because that will happen, you self-inquire and you go, how are you feeling? And then you just name the emotion in your mind, and then you know exactly where you're at.
Yeah.
And there's power in that, and there's a big connection. And the more you do that little simple meditation, that relationship will build. You'll see the benefits, and then you'll go, okay, I want to explore something else now.
Yeah.
So start small. I mean, I hear it all the time. Meditation's not for me. It's too woo-woo. I'm not a spiritual person. Well, you don't have to be. You've got a body, you've got breath, you've got a mind. Just go with that. Take care of yourself, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful way of doing it.
Love that. So we mentioned at the start that you kicked the business off officially in February. When did you sort of start to notice the impacts of the pandemic?
Pretty much when the restrictions came in and I couldn't have groups.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's the main bulk of where I was going to aim my business is the group sessions, and obviously social distancing, things like that. I am running the business from my home as well.
Yeah.
So obviously, you can't have people in your home. So it was quite instant, to be honest. But it just meant you had to adapt super quick, like everyone else. Everything goes online, and luckily with meditation, you don't need too much other than yourself to show up. And I was able to shift it all online. Quite quickly. Zoom's a great thing.
Yeah, exactly. And that was going to be the next question. Like, what sort of pivots and changes did you make? And obviously, online was the answer. So you started running the classes online.
Yeah, not so much group meditations. I've actually, any group meditations I have done throughout the year has been free, because
Okay.
I've offered it as a gift to people that may feel the struggles of isolation.
Yeah, fantastic.
And that's even reached people in Melbourne, who have had these stage 4 lockdowns, more so obviously than us in regional Victoria. Just because, it didn't sit well with me to charge for group meditations. They're not
Yep.
personalized. I feel like I'm giving something back to people that are, in a really rubbish position this year.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, that's fantastic. What do you feel like, is there anything you've learnt because of the challenges of the pandemic in relation to your business? Is there anything that, moving forward, are there any kind of light bulb moments or ways that, things that you'd add to the business? Anything that you've learnt out of, what's the pandemic has forced us into, I suppose?
Absolutely. In fact, I think in a way it's been a blessing for me, in the sense that it's slow, because obviously when you start a business, and you can relate to this, you go, you're excited, you're full of adrenaline, you're nervous, you want to put everything into it. And COVID's taught me that it can be done online,
Yeah.
particularly throughout winter. People don't want to leave their houses anyway because it's cold. They can do a one-on-one session or a free meditation with me over Zoom from the comfort of their own home in their pajamas. Yeah. So that's worked really well. Also, how I show up on social media, the content that I have been sharing also made me stop in my tracks and think, well, how can I better service other people? And from that, I've really connected with the people that have shown an interest, particularly on Instagram. I find that the connection's much more potent on there rather than Facebook. I've asked people, what do you want from me? Which is great, because it keeps my ego in check. It keeps me really connecting to the people that want to learn. Yep. And it's actually changed the course of some of my content as well, that I like courses that I'll be putting out in the future, what people want to learn as well, like didn't even occur to me prior, but because I've actually stopped and spent that time just talking to people, what do you need? How can I serve you better when things go back to normal? It's been so beneficial from that sense. And you can learn things financially as well. I've done everything at a discounted rate throughout COVID, just because I know the financial hardships people are in first and foremost, but also, it just didn't intuitively sit well for me to charge full price when it's not, an intimate experience like it is face to face as well. So so much to learn, and I'll always learn. That's the thing. I'll always level with the people that come to me and ask them what they need, because I feel like that's firstly more authentic.
Yes.
But that means that my business can change and evolve as I learn as well. So it's exciting. It's been interesting, I would say, was probably the
Yes, 2020 has been interesting, that's for sure.
Oh, so many adjectives you can use, but interesting is probably mine.
It's a year we'll never forget, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Look, Cheryl, thank you so much for taking the time to share your business story, and yes, just some really decent insights into meditation and just how we can look after our health in all areas moving forward. So, where can people find out more about you?
I do have a Facebook and Instagram, Muse Meditation. You can find me on there. No website as yet. I've got a milkshake website, but that's something that I'll be working on next year. But essentially social media, and all my personal contact details are on there as well.
Perfect. Fantastic. Well, look, again, thank you very much for taking the time, and all the best.
Thank you. Thanks so much. I appreciate your time.